Good.
There was another movie with Oprah and Danny Glover. It was, I always get those mixed up, because you got the same character. So I had to do a little watch it again.
We'll wait for the squad to get up here. I mean, we're not waiting for real. We can get this started without, and then they'll join when they get here. Yo, so I just want to point out this is therapy for us all. Like week in, week out. We look forward to it. Listen, fellas,
It's gonna be one of them nights.
it's gonna be. I'm telling you. What's up, baby? What's the dang deal? You remember that?
What's happening?
Them Texas boys just say that all the time, yo. Well, man, another Tuesday night at 9, man. We just want to get into a little bit of this and a little bit of that, man. How y'all fellas feeling tonight?
Man, feeling good, feeling great.
Yeah, how was your
How was
holiday?
y'all Christmas?
Yeah, it was pretty good, man. What about you,
Oh
Lee?
man, I'm good.
But you got a new hoodie?
I'm good. You hear
Oh no, I already had this. I already had this.
A little bit. I hear it from Mo. Yeah. Slight echo.
Oh, it might be me. Let me check.
No, you was good when we was just on here. But yeah, man. So ever since this joint was coming out, man, it's been on my heart to kind of debunk this thing or kind of attack it in a way that it's done so much hurt to our community, and I don't even understand if we understand why or the ideas that's been implanted into our community based off this movie. Like this is like the black woman's Bible. Like everybody, there's not a black woman that hasn't seen this movie for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like soon as they come out, they give the black woman like, hey,
Red.
watch this movie. You know
Look
what
for
I'm
the red
saying?
one.
And I know although we haven't watched it all like that, I think it's important for it to know what's being fed
If it's not, then
to
put
our
that up
daughters.
there.
You know what I mean? So, what's up, Hit? How you feeling, brother?
Talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you because you came in unmuted.
My bad. What's happening? What's up,
Man,
fella?
we're just chilling, man. We'll talk a little bit about this Negro spiritual, I guess we can call it. What's intriguing to me is that Steven Spielberg directed the first one, and I'm like, why? Like, where he come from? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, ain't that crazy?
That's like Steven Spielberg. Like, why? Like, that's an odd name to be placed in the middle of all this, black cultureness. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Look, here's another fun fact about Steven Spielberg. He owns the rights to all of MLK speeches too.
What? That's different. That's
It
different.
is. It is.
That's different. So here's one thing, right? So I've been banking on this movie to basically flop. You know what I'm saying? Like they're saying, oh, the black girl magic, and everybody's seeing it, and Oprah, paid for all these seats or like sororities. They're showing this. They're re-showing this to the young girls. Like they showed it at the Jack and Jill conference. Like they're re-educating the black young girls with this same movie. Like any influent ones, you know what I mean? All the sororities are buying out the seats. And they're like, oh, it's sold out. It wasn't. But like they're like, oh, it's sold out and this and that. And there was a stat that came out today that it was the best Christmas opener in a long time, right? Like beating out Aquaman and Willy Wonka, but in actuality it's not. Because they opened already, and you know what I'm saying, nobody was just seeing them on the Christmas day. So on Christmas Day their numbers were better than those other movies, but it wasn't better than their overall opening weekend. You understand what I'm saying? So, how you feel about this hit? I mean, you already. No, I'm not talking to you. Go ahead, hit. Let's go. Let's go backwards. Let's go back around the clock, counterclockwise. We're beating up on Leaford.
Yo, what's the question?
So, how do you feel about the movie as a whole, on the effects it had? The effects this movie had on our community?
The original, or are we talking about the current?
The original.
Man, I'll be real. Like, so I actually haven't even seen the entire movie. I seen clips, like I seen it through like different times in different spaces, but I'd never seen it from start to finish.
Right.
So prior to this, I actually started to watch it just to have, just to have an understanding. But I just couldn't dedicate that much time in my life. Like that just almost like 3 hours, man. And I just didn't have the 3 hours to do, man. I just didn't want to see it for 3 hours. I'm sorry, but if you go back to Color Purple, man, and like I remember the original when it was like a big thing, like in the early 90s. But it was a part of a movement that was coming out with, like, I guess the women empowerment that it kind of lined with like the Set It Off. We kind of lined with like Waiting to Exhale. Yeah, it was the Waiting to Exhale.
This is
85.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about when I remembered it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It was like the Christmas Story coming out every year.
Yeah, it was like to me. That's what I'm saying. Like early 90s, like in the 90s, it was like an empowerment thing. Like, what's love got to do with it? Like all those like female movies that was kind of like empowering women, but they was kind of using the male as the, like, you know what I'm saying, the springboard. You know what I mean? It always seems that way. Like in most women, in cases of women, black women, black men are the oppressor. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's never they gotta. It's like the white man is the savior, but the black man has to be the one that they gotta overcome. Huh?
Not in this.
Not in this. I mean, there was no savior
on the hate that they and the lack of protection that black men have to offer. Like it doubles down on it. It's crazy. What's up, Smooth? I wanted you here because you're a little older than us, right? So you could really talk. Like we were young, like so it was just like a thing that was like happening around us. We seen clips, but you got 3 sisters.
Yeah, 3.
You know what I'm saying? You got 3 sisters. You're a little older, so you can kind of comprehend how your sisters was feeling at this time of watching this movie, or like how much it's changed or played a part in the psyche of women around you at that time.
Honestly, man, it didn't have an effect that it has on a lot of women, especially like the reboot on women now. Although I got 3 sisters, we was raised all together with a strong black father. So the image that they portrayed in that movie, my sisters they didn't see that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think, that movie, man, I was young when it came out. So getting older and then just seeing more clips of it, and I watched it again maybe 10, 12 years ago, and then just looking back on certain things in that movie, man, that was, to me, it was black exploitation without the jive turkey in it. You know what I'm saying? Like that I don't think that movie did the black community any good. You know what I'm saying? And to reboot it, they only reiterating what they're trying to do, hold the black man down. And I feel like any woman, black woman now that think that's a powerful movie, she's mentally weak. You know what I'm saying? And she's not going to be supportive of it. If she has a man in her life, she's not going to be supportive of that man. You know what I'm saying? Because that movie is, I mean, the agenda of that movie was garbage. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, but I don't think that it had an impact as much as it having now. Just because I just don't.
Because watching the movie,
it was a different day and time then.
Well,
like you could still beat your wife back then and don't even get a charge. Like it was a different way of thinking back then.
Hold on, Yeah, that was the 80s, man, not the 60s and the 70s. You know,
Man,
what I'm
it was still in the 80s
Well,
too.
well, this movie
It was set in 1909.
yeah, it was set in like from 1909 to 1947.
But it came out in
But it
85.
came out like 80, yeah.
So like you shouldn't have been beating your
Yeah.
like, you should have been beating your old lady at 85.
But
But,
it's to reimplant how it's kind of like watching Roots. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
So listen.
but I mean, it has the same effect of watching Roots to reignite that racism. Like, yeah, this is what they used to do to you. This is why you should hate them. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not, but you're disagreeing because you're saying it's fiction.
Yeah, like I was like,
that's why
like,
you're disagreeing.
Slavery actually happened.
Yeah. You're disagreeing because it's fiction. I'm saying, but it's still doing the same thing to ignite that dislike, that hate, that animosity. You understand what I'm saying?
So here's the context. So here's the context around my thoughts on it. So man, I was 3 years old when the thing came out. So obviously I come from a woman-dominated family or whatever. So I remember hearing about it and all that, but for whatever reason, I never watched it from cover to cover. That it just wasn't something that interested me. But I knew we were going to be talking about it today, so I literally just watched all 2 hours and 30 minutes of it before this show.
Yeah.
That is literally a horror movie.
Yes.
That's a horror movie. Wrapped in a feminist wet dream. Like that is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like it. So the damage that it did to young minds who didn't have a positive male image already had to be terrible. Like if you were null and void of a positive male image, it only killed it. It only killed the imagination you had of one. So there's that. And then like there's all this other stuff that was mixed into it. Like and I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead, but like we literally had where like because at first it was like, oh well, it was the father sleeping with the daughter, but actually turns out it wasn't that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. Don't do that.
So
yeah.
And I've never heard anybody say that.
Right. They never deep. Yep.
No one's ever said that. They just be like, oh, he did this to his daughter.
Yep.
But that's not actually what happened. Now, granted, it's definitely still bad because she was 14, but
you're absolutely right.
But we're gonna touch on that. So I got a lot of context and I have very fresh thoughts on it because I just finished watching.
I just watched it today too. What's up, Lee? What you got?
Yeah, I think I've watched it quite a few times over the years. Of course, none in the last 10 years. So
you definitely grew up in a female-dominated space.
For sure. But I don't remember any conversations around it. Like we were saying earlier, like movies like that, and Women of Brewster's Place and things like that. It definitely saw plenty of times. But yeah, I've rewatched it again. Not from cover to cover, but pieces here and there today. And yeah, Reese is right, man. It is like a horror film, man, and it is, of course, based off of a book, and a lot of that might not be. It might be fiction in the way that they wrote it, not based off any factual, actual, real thing that happened. But those are real things that happen, in those times, so it might just be based off somebody's recollection. It was really like disturbing, even though, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but to see, to start, I mean, it starts off in like horror land where you're like, oh goodness gracious, you know what I mean? And it kind of continues to do this throughout the movie, where you see different depictions of men being extremely cruel to women, children, and you know what I mean, where
it's
beating,
hard to speak
cheating.
on. It's hard to really speak on, dog. Like
it is, because it's like you know these things happen. You know what I mean?
No, we don't.
No,
we don't.
Yes.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
I mean, I know they happen.
No,
for sure.
Like what?
Like, I know real stories of this stuff. So I know they happen.
No.
But to see some of this stuff and then see how they only focus in on these negative things throughout the movie. And of course, I didn't read the book, so the book might be 10 times worse. It might be better. I don't know how it depicts it in the book, but man, there definitely wasn't any positive as far as men goes that I really saw in that. It was all messed up relationships from father to daughter. It was messed up relationships from husband to wife, messed up relationships. You know what I mean? Just estranged sad women. Like it was just it's really rough watch. So it's hard to to really talk about it and see positive out of it. You know what I mean? Even on the woman aspect, it's hard to even see positive out of that.
So here's the thing: why do you think they like hand this off to them as a rites of passage? Like,
because they're trauma bonding. They're trauma bonding.
Saying? Like, all right, this is what you should, like. Even with the trauma bond, this is not a common story. So why is it so prevalent? Like, this is what you want to make sure that all Black women see. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's not. I don't think it's really a common story. And people are arguing like you said.
I think you don't know. I think you don't know.
I sure hope not.
And maybe they don't talk about it because I've heard stories like this.
I sure
a
hope
lot.
not.
So are you you've heard stories like this, but are you sure that it might be that's them telling that story? I don't know how you heard the story, but I'm projecting at this point, right? But it might be them trauma bonding with this film, taking it on as their own,
and trauma,
right? Internalizing it, and then telling you who could be a friend, like, yeah, this is what this happened in my family, or blah 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 blah. And it's really like pulling from this movie, this film, as if it's common or if it's normal. It's just because something might align.
I'm not sure they even saw the film, but I hear stories about this all the time in different families. How
I pray to God that
this stuff goes down. Like how this stuff goes down. Like I heard stories about it a lot throughout the years. And it's like, man.
So the fact that you hear stories like this all the time, it's to me only.
But that's a bit of exaggeration. That's a bit of exaggeration. Well, but I've heard it a lot throughout my lifetime.
But what I'm saying is, to me, that's one of the prime examples of this being women using this story to project it to be empaths about it and then share it as their own. Because there's tons of that.
It wasn't women. It was men. It was for men too.
Yeah, were they raised by women?
It wasn't just women.
Hold up, time out.
It wasn't just men. It wasn't just women. It was men too.
I'm
heard
confused.
This story from.
What part of it? What are we talking about? Because I'm like, this can't go on.
I'm thinking it's the having sex with young girls, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about the rape, the molestation. Talking about like these different things that go on in families that aren't spoken about. You know what
disgusting.
I mean? Look, uncle. You know what I mean? The uncle coming
That's
over.
Terrible.
You know, like all this type of stuff. I've heard all these different kinds of stories, like from different people, a lot, and I'm like, you don't really know what to say. You're just like, sometimes people just want to get stuff off their chest, and I'm just like, ooh.
So one, that's absolutely terrible. And two, when we talk about kind of what happened in that movie, that wasn't even really what happened, though. And like, you see how we took the worst thing that's actually happened in real life and we connected it to this movie, and that wasn't even really what happened. Like, there was no family involved in that actual dynamic there. They just didn't know it.
And we didn't connect family, but it was still family. It
wasn't family. No, it wasn't family at all.
Yeah, but you see how we But you see how we
wasn't raised him. He wasn't raised
by secondary mistake, but it wasn't.
Well, I'm just saying, like it's family in regards that that's all they knew as dad, and that he was raising them. That's what I'm saying. Not blood, not biological, but by this is all I know. Right.
But you see how people can connect. Whatever they have trauma wise, they can connect it to this, and that's why I'm like, this is sketchy. This is a very tough dynamic for me. I hope that that's not something that's going on often. Because if so, wow, there's a lot of stuff.
It reminds me of one of those things. Like if you don't have a plan for your child, this is the world has a plan for it.
For sure. I mean,
You
you
know
hear
what I'm
about
saying?
stuff like this with the Catholic Church or with the Boy Scouts or with the Boys and Girls Club or what, you know what I mean? This stuff is happening, a lot. Like a lot.
But those are different entities, and I think that those things should be separated, right? And what am I saying? Those are different cultures that not that we don't necessarily have those traumas within our culture, and we don't need anything added to it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like we're already hanging on by a string as black people in this country, as is. So adding this kind of thing to every young girl who don't have a father, or just girls in general in our community, we should just dismiss this at a all time rate, right? Because if you think about it, like movies had impacted us on how we make decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this happened in the movie. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. You understand what I'm saying? So it formulates our reactions on what we should be mad at, how we should react to certain things, who we should
How we
be
view
suspicious-
how we view
how we view
yeah.
people. You know what I'm saying? That necessarily is not there. Like it's wild to me, and I think even to a degree, like there was points to this I was watching, and it was. I understand how black women calculate their body count off of watching this movie. Like there was a point where it's like, well, if you ain't enjoy it, it don't count.
I was so upset. I never caught that, but now that you mentioned it, I do remember it. And I was like, that was a weird thing to say.
Right. Like if you didn't enjoy it, that body don't
Yeah,
count.
she said technically you're a virgin. I was like, what? Like she got 2 babies. Like
She got
I'm
2
like,
whole
how?
kids. Well, I ain't like him, so yeah, that body ain't count. So I only been with like one person, and that's why we be multiplying by 3. You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't never the truth. But like those kind of things will be like, well, if I don't enjoy it, and I've heard that with amongst media and other girls be like, if a dude ever paid you for it, that don't count. You know what I'm saying? Like if you needed your bills paid and that's how you get your bills paid, yeah, that body don't even count. Like go ahead and not even count that one. Only count the ones you was in a relationship with. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, if you got a train ran on you, that's one action. That's one time, so that don't count. That's one body. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
This makes me want to vomit. This is disgusting. This is a disgusting conversation.
but
So
I mean,
with
but
that
it's
being
a lot
said,
of
I
that.
was just thinking culturally. I mean, I wasn't diving into that aspect of it. I would just because we were talking about, kind of what are its effects on our community and our culture. Just as I looked at it at face value from a culture perspective, I was like, I've never seen Jewish people glorifying the Holocaust. I've never seen, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, why do we glorify our trauma? Even if this isn't real, this is synthetic trauma, and we're glorifying it, and we're going in droves to go see it. I'm like, this is horrible. Why would we want to glorify it, and why would we want to prop this up? And specifically when it comes to business and you're doing movie and film, if enough people go see it, they're like, well, that's what the people want. So we're gonna keep seeing more of this type of stuff. Like I remember I had the same thought when Precious came out. I was like, that was the most disgusting, some of the worst stuff I had ever seen. I don't like as I heard about the stuff, I don't want to go see that. So it's just like why I don't know why we like want to go see dead bodies all the time. Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
What you think?
So
Smooth?
I think a
Go ahead.
point. I think to Mo's point, the problem is like us as Black America, we really don't have no history. We really don't have anything to identify to. So we cling on things like this. Like to us, this is like a part of our American history, right? You know what I mean? And so this is us celebrating, you know what I mean? Because it was a historical movie for its time. It was the first of a long line. But honestly, just listening to you guys and from what I've seen, I honestly don't think it had the cultural impact that we're giving it the credit to. I think it was just the first of its time. I think there was a lot more movies that had more culturally impact, Waiting to Excel. That was huge because it had a lot of star power in it, and it's totally depict men as like POSs. You know what I mean? In all different phases, and it had the star power to push it. I think it wasn't as culturally. I think it was a cultural. I don't think it had the cultural impact. I think it was just the first of its time.
Have you ever heard this? I's married now. Have you ever heard that?
I had no idea where it came from. until I resaw this movie. That's where it comes from.
I heard it at your first wedding, bro.
Yep, exactly. I don't say a billion.
I didn't even know what it meant. Like,
yep.
Like she just said asthma. I was like, oh, that's just a
yes. This really does. It really did.
It really does. Have you ever heard? All my life, I had to fight.
Yep.
But everybody, it's a joke though. It's like a joke. You know what I mean? It's a running joke.
There's always a little truth.
It's only funny because there's a little truth to it. Yeah.
Kendrick Lamar said it in the song. That's what
it's a part of the culture, like you're saying. Yeah. It's the impact.
Like I think it's just was the first of its kind, but I think impactfully, like after you watch What's Love Got to Do with It, you hate Ike Turner. Like, you know what I mean? Like I didn't really know much about the group, but he did a lot to put her on. But you wouldn't know that if you watched What's Love Got to Do with It. I think there was a lot more depiction of black men, more movies with more impact, the depiction of black men than just The Color Purple.
So
he sleep?
No, I ain't. Well, I'm just soaking it in, man, because man, like I say, I haven't seen this movie in a minute, man. And my thoughts of this movie is I'm trying to go through and recollect some thoughts of this movie, but I'm paying attention to what y'all saying.
You got your eyes closed.
My eyes ain't closed, man. Just the glare on my glasses.
He that old uncle that fall asleep in the chair. What was you about to say, Mo?
So I just think I think especially in our community, man, for whatever reason, probably because of our history in this country, we're so big on tokenism. And this was Steven Spielberg, big white producer, actually doing a movie with basically an all-black cast. So just based off the symbolism in itself, it was big for us culturally. Whether we meant it to be that way, probably not. Whether we realized that, this is like gory fiction at our expense, we didn't care. We just were like, hey, black people on the screen and we don't get to see this all the time, so we should support it. That's probably not the best thing to do. Like I'm always talking about it, like symbolism and tokenism it doesn't really have much value. So just following something because it looks like you or the main actors look like you, that isn't, like, it's about the content and what the imagery and what it represents. I think that's more important than the tokenism or the symbolism
I think
behind
this plays a huge part on why black women have a hard time being submissive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've heard plenty of black women.
Yeah, like Sophia. I know so many Sophias now. I know so many Sophias now.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
Jesus.
Like, I ain't silly. I'm not cleaning no kitchen, or I ain't doing this. Okay, mister. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've heard all those things, like, just being rambled off. So, I mean, if you don't know it's playing a huge part, when people were just reiterating things, clips or whatever, like, it's in there.
Just going through my life, I've connected a bunch of references that I didn't even know were part
that you didn't even know. I didn't even know this is where this is coming from. Like, you know, I knew I've heard so many that I knew it was connected to this. Right? Look, right? Like,
till you do right by me, everything you do gonna fail.
So I don't know how y'all just kind of missed over or not experienced these kind of like, hey, that's where you got that from?
Yo, but that's a black thing. Like, that's what we do. We reference, we take movies and make it life. You know what I mean? That's what we do as people, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it had an impact culturally, especially in the day. You gotta think of the day and time that it came out in. It was like it was more celebrated because it was the first screenplay with like big stars. You know what I mean? Like,
it wasn't big stars then.
They was big. They was. Oprah was Oprah. Whoopi was Whoopi. What are you talking about?
Not then. No, they wasn't big stars then.
They were pretty big, man.
It catapulted them. We kind of catapulted them to that next stage.
Whoopi was
this
Whoopi,
is 85, man. Bro. Like,
Whoopi was a big deal.
And Whoopi was Whoopi, man.
Yeah, they were big deals.
There wasn't. There was them. Like, Oprah was already on her way. I think, didn't Oprah like finance that movie somewhat? like she was already on her way. I think she had something with the
financed
finance.
She financed a new one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but she was on her way. They were already.
Yeah, she was a big deal. She was a big deal already for sure.
It was a huge thing for the black stars to be on that big screen, where you said with a huge director and backed by a major studio. It was significant for its time. But I don't know, at that time people were doing different. It wasn't as sensitive as it is now. Like you're thinking it from a brain, a 2023, 2024 brain. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same type of people then. Men were still men. You know what I mean? Women still had a place. Not saying they should, but there was a place for women. It wasn't what it is right now. Now the voices are a lot louder. So it's a different day and time that is connected to.
Anybody got a rebuttal for that? Lee, you ain't saying nothing in a minute.
I'm traumatized, man. I'm over here. I'm over here like, because when I was watching that movie, like when I was younger, man, it was like a movie. It wasn't nothing that I was really attaching to anything. It was just like it's the same thing when I watched like Roots and stuff like that. It was like just kind of watching the imagery. You know what I mean? I'm not really connecting it to real life situations. You know what I mean? I'm just watching like Freddy Krueger, you know what I mean? Or Michael Myers or something. I'm just watching it like it's a movie. So yeah, it's just
when I seen Malcolm X when I was 9 and it changed my life, boy. I ain't never put a piece of pork in my mouth ever again. I went to school the next day, talk to my teacher, like, yeah, you people had us in slavery. And my teacher was like, we ain't do nothing. I'm like, yes, you did. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all had us in slavery.
Go to show the impact. It
has an impact, man. Like these movies ain't just for play.
An impressionable mind, man. It can change them. And I did that for a reason, Kev. I did that for a reason because we're gonna get to do people change.
Yeah, all right. But go ahead, bro.
I was just saying, man. I was just saying it was just, we're watching it through grown-up eyes, you know what I mean, and really seeing all of this stuff and like you said, I've heard all these things before and I've heard it from there, but over the years while I'm hearing it, I didn't put it back to this, like that ice marriage and the you know what I mean, like all those different sayings that come out of there, and I've hear them and I forget they come from that, and I hear different people saying, I'm like, man, where, and I'm laughing and joking with them, but I'm like, man, I can't remember where it came from. And now watching it again, and just seeing all of that stuff come from there, and seeing how, even just looking at like certain women in my life, and seeing that Sophia character, you know what I mean, like full-fledged, like that Sophia character, like okay, and not knowing, like, okay, well, is that was that the catalyst for the behavior, or is, you know what I mean, inadvertently, you know what I mean, like inadvertently, is that the catalyst for the behavior that subconsciously they're not really seeing it like that, but they just don't want to be weak, and they associate that strength with Sophia.
You got to think about it. The only person that could put her in her place was the white man,
right?
I bet most people didn't catch that.
No, I definitely caught it, in the fact that we couldn't even help her. Like, you know what I'm saying? We couldn't even help her.
Even with the white lady, when she was trying to, the white lady was the nicer of both of them, and she was trying to give her some time to spend with her family, and then
couldn't even put it in reverse. So you got to come back.
She didn't know how to drive, so she had to, you know what I mean? She was so scared of the black man, she couldn't even do anything. So it was just like, no, you got to come back. Forget what I said. You got to take me back. You know what I mean? So, that type of stuff.
That's the same thing I just said earlier, and y'all tell me like looked at me like I was crazy when I say that most of the movies do the same thing. The white people are in power, and the black man is depicted as the devil. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's the same thing.
You said the savior, and that
was ain't nobody get saved.
No, it was the white man ain't saved nothing in that.
No savior.
But he was a person in power though.
He pistol whipped her. The white man came and pistol whipped her for talking back.
Yeah, he got butted around.
She got pistol whipped. You know what I'm saying? So there was no savior in that. Even all the way up until the end, it was just like and they found a voodoo. You know what I'm saying? And that's what got them out. Like, so so it drives the question of why would they recreate this? What's the driving force? What are they trying to do to recreate this? Because all the black, they're all going to go see it in droves, right? And that's why I hope it flops so they can realize like y'all really not out here making the impact y'all think y'all doing. But I mean, it's still destroying our women, right? They're all going to go see it,
and that's the whole point of them redoing the movie.
Yeah, I think it's to give the death blow to the black male image and further put a divide between us and like I said, the death blow to the black family. That's the only thing that it can accomplish, because clearly there's no unity in that.
No, none.
It's a different lethargical season, man. It's really we've entered a season, right, where women are going to be empowered for a minute. If you look at how things are going and how it's shifting, and everything is business and movies and television, like now you look at sports and there's more women on the panel than men, so you can see there's a big shift in like women rights, women power. The Me Too movement, it's been a big shift over the last 10 years in like women, coming and rising up. And this movie is just a part of that. Like, I don't think it's nothing. I think it's a different day and time again. And it's going to be looked at different because now women are in power. They're running more things. And it's just a reboot of a celebration, man. I don't think it's, to me, honestly, I don't think it's huge. Because if we look at it, there's a lot more impactful things that's happened from a women running the world standpoint and black men taking the back seat. I think, I'm saying, this movie is not really that. I think it's just, again, we celebrating something that happened before, and it's more noise because women they're running more. They have more power. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot more things that's happening for black men than this.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think women make more money than men?
I seen the graph you had sent out, right? Listen, in the next 10 years, so I want you to look at what the numbers were 10 years ago and what they're now, and then what they'll be, extrapolate what it'll be in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, yes, women will be making more money than men. And are we talking about black women and black men? Or are we talking about black women and white men?
Yeah, or black women and black men.
In the next 10 years, if I want you to look at the numbers from 10 years ago to now, and we can extrapolate that and look at what it looks like in the next 10 years.
The trajectory of how it's been moving is going to impact, and it's going.
They're going to make more money than us in the next 10 years. I'm pretty sure. If you look at in the last 10 years how it's grown and where we going, I mean, even having a woman vice president.
This is all theoretical, but I think you're wrong.
Look
because
at
of but I have. So even with that being said, because of what they're going into, they're very educated, but it's in humanities, and a lot of that stuff, there's not going to be much money in it. So, and then a lot of social programs are going to get cut because we just don't have the money that we used to as a country. So there's just not enough money for them to make. So it's almost like, unless they were to start getting into like STEM and being like the engineers and all that, which as of right now, even at this clip, they're not doing. I don't see
even with the push that they have to jump into it.
No, there's a huge backing though. They're being backed.
There's a huge backing.
Being backed just as much as homosexual men.
No,
like they have that push. They have a
huge push. I agree. But in the world, right, in the actual field, they're just not in it. Like I very rarely work with any women. Very rarely. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I haven't worked with many black people in my field either.
Men? How often do you work with black men?
Very rare. But I've worked with more black men than women.
That's part of it too, though.
But it's both, yeah.
Because the numbers of black men in these spaces in STEM and in these other spaces where they're building and making.
I see a lot though, actually.
Are they declining?
No, I've seen more black men in the field than I have black women in the field. But like, I think black men are still outnumbering white women or in any other women in the space. You know what I'm saying?
I'm about to
Like,
put a weird caveat on this.
the only other woman that the number one cultured woman I see is the Indian woman. I see her the most, and then after that I don't really even see white women like that. I'll
Are
see
we
an
including
Asian women.
Africans? Are we including Africans? Because I see plenty of African men in.
Oh yeah,
in
yeah,
STEM.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm seeing plenty of them.
Yeah, plenty of
Plenty
those.
of them.
No, I wasn't counting those at all. But yeah, there's
Yeah, because
plenty.
because they count them as black men.
Yeah. No, there's plenty
Those
of those.
people are included. Yeah, they're included in those numbers.
But
I say business wise, if that's just one sector that they're not in, I think they're double penetrating other, you know what I'm saying, other
that's
business,
the
like
easiest
businesses,
engineering field to
corporate.
jump into.
I mean, but at that, so you gotta look at, right, I guess the impact. So yes, like STEM, everything that has an impact. But I think if you're the face of a CEO of a company, right, you have a greater impact, you know what I'm saying, culturally, and to allow other people in, right? You're gonna set the standard, you're gonna change, like standards has changed, like job rules has changed, all to make it easier for women to advance. Like it's being honest, man. You know what I mean? I'm in the corporate world. You can see it. It was one time. It's being changed. It's changing. The world is changing. And again, like I said, the voice is different. So Color Purple is going to have a bigger impact now because it has a bigger voice. I don't think it had the same voice in the 80s. I think people were more celebrating it for the actors and what was going on at that time, celebrating Black culture. Now it's celebrated for different reasons.
So I think what Hit saying is actually he has a valid point, but it's going to have a counter result that what people think of. So like you said, you're in corporate and you're seeing more women being in prominent positions, and they're changing standards. And one of the standards that they're changing is a lot of people are saying you don't need to have a college degree no more. And who dominates higher education at this point? Women. So now if you're going to take that off the board, that could potentially be an issue. So that's where they had the upper hand on folks. So that's what I'm thinking. It's not going to have the end result that they think it is by removing that standard.
What's interesting, anecdotally, we all could be right because we all deal with different sectors of life. You know what I'm saying? Like me being in the STEM, Hit dealing in management, you know what I'm saying? So he manages those kind of people. You dealing with HR, you know what I mean? So
but my thing is I have to look at it holistically. I have to look at like the population as a whole. So right. I see it and I'm like, obviously I'll be trying to not say too much, but with the respect to like based on what people need and what these companies need and what we bring in for the workplace of the future, humanity degrees ain't what's needed. And then removing these types of degree requirements, who's coming in who weren't able to get those jobs because of degree requirements wasn't women. So we're opening the floodgates for these other types of workers who don't have these advanced degrees to get into, and then all these humanities degrees are no longer needed. So that's my take on it. We'll see.
I don't. So what Mo is saying is correct, but I think it's for a different reason. I don't think that's one of the advantages I was set to push that agenda. I think the problem is that there aren't a lot of qualified people for these positions at this point. And so what they're doing is removing the degrees to allow more people to be able to widen the candidate pool, because the guy, I forgot, it was Elon Musk or somebody said that there's going to be more positions than qualified people in 10 years in most sectors. You know what I'm saying? It's just how it's shaping out to be. And I think that's just, they're removing the degrees to increase the talent pool, because there's a lot of people that have that experience and they don't have the degrees, but there's not a lot of qualified people at this point.
And think about the demographic of universities. Women are outnumbering, boys, and I guess how you want to put it. Women are outnumbering men 3-1 across the board at universities at this point. So who do you think they're trying to open it up for? It ain't for the girls, because obviously the girls they're 3 times more likely to have that education.
But they still ain't getting educated in the right sectors though.
Exactly.
That's the caveat.
And that's why I think it's gonna have an unintended consequence, removing those standards. Because you're right, they're changing the standards, but it's going to have an unintended consequence.
So to kind of move the needle along, the interesting question came up, just amongst conversation is, can people change? Now, I don't believe so. My personal opinion is who you are is who you are, and you make decisions based on your options, and that person make those decisions, uh, granted on how they feel about a situation at the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? So if you have A, B, C, like if you're 20 years old and only got option A and B, and then you've worked your way to having four more options, I'm saying you're making those same, based on the options, you're making the decisions off of that. So if you're a 20-year-old person with four options, that you'll pick the best one. You know what I'm saying? So because I see a lot of people, I see a lot of older people making the same mistakes that they would if they, when they had no options. Like, so people that don't progress, you know what I'm saying? They make the same option, they make the same decisions over and over and over and over throughout the course of their life until they're able to get in a position where they're making better options. But it's kind of one of those things where, like, people say, uh, reading a parenting book don't make you a better parent. The fact that you were willing to read a book about parenting what makes you the better parent. So that's kind of how my take is. Lee, I'm gonna go ahead around that way. Do you think people change?
You starting with me first, huh? I think people can change. I think and they could change for a lot of different reasons, and in different ways. I think sometimes people change intentionally because who they are and the way they move now doesn't match where they want to be. So they put themselves in spaces or align themselves with different groups that'll get them where they want to be. Um, I think also environment can change people. If you're in an environment where it's you and nobody else who thinks like you and a bunch of other people, eventually that can start pulling changes on you. I think people typically are the same as a core, at the core of who they are. But I think characteristics and the way that they make decisions and the way they move in some instances, I think changes or can change in a lot of different ways. So I think people can change. I think most people are afraid of change and don't like change, so they're a little bit more stagnant when it comes to change. And sometimes I think people change and don't even notice it. You know what I mean? Because they're living it, and it's so incremental that people on the outside notice your changes before you do. So I think people do change. I think a lot of that change is incremental. So it's sometimes unbeknownst to the person, and they're living that life, so they feel like I'm the same. I'm the same. And it's like, nah, bro. I've seen you in the same situation 2 years ago, and the decision you made was not the same decision you made today. Like, then you chose violence. Now you chose your family. So you know what I mean. I think people can change for sure.
Go, Mo.
Absolutely people change. I mean, I gave a clear-cut example earlier, just with Vic itself. You know what I mean? I don't know what was that, 93 or whatever, when Malcolm X came out. And he literally saw it one time and decided never to eat pork again. That's a change. Like, new information changes your decision making. That's easy. Exposure leads to expansion. So the exposure to more information is going to change how you make your decisions. So yeah, I mean, if you don't evolve, you die. So of course you change. Every person changes, even if it's like Leifer said, incrementally, but you're gonna change, because otherwise, if you don't evolve, you die. So yes, absolutely.
What's up, Smooth? Do people change?
Everybody changed, man. I'm thinking. I mean, if you want better for yourself, I don't know no one who comes in the world perfect or just gets into a perfect situation at an early age in life and just stays there. The only way to progress in life is to change. Hell, some people change for the worse. You know what I mean? But I mean, you just hell. I think I've changed since I met you. I don't think I'm the same person. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm more mature now than when you first met me.
I don't think so, but okay. What's up, Hit? Do people change?
Yeah, I think evolution is natural for humans. You know what I mean? Like you think about it, you're a child, you know what I mean, and you become an adult, and then you know what I mean, you become an elder adult, whatever. So I think honestly, people work harder to stay the same than to change. You know what I mean? Because it's naturally we're going to change with information, like Lee said, your environment, like new experiences is going to naturally make you change. How you thought at 21 is not how you're going to think at 40. You know what I mean? You change due to your experiences and things that, you know what I mean, in the environment around you. I think when you say people are making the same mistakes, I think you got to work hard to do that. Like you got to be committed to being an asshole to make the same mistakes over and over. Like you gotta not want to change. You gotta not want to grow. You know what I mean? You gotta kind of want to keep doing the same things over and over. You know what I mean? You gotta run from exposure. I think you work harder to stay the same. You know what I mean? Because growing is a part of life. Like you just keep living and you're gonna experience and you're gonna naturally change. You're gonna naturally evolve. Like it's just like it's a part of life. It's just what happens.
I think I don't think people change, right? I think it's you have to fight to change. If anything, I think that's what being a Christian is about is fighting to be something you're not, because you naturally want to do something else. Um, Mo brought up the fact that I stopped eating pork, right, because I seen Malcolm X based on more information, right. That was an outward expression of how I already felt on the inside. Everything is like that. It's people grow, and when they're able to finally express how they feel on the inside, then they act that out as they get older. You know what I'm saying? So when they're young and they're kind of handcuffed to can't dress this way, can't do this or whatever. When they get older, then when they're able to have the haircuts they always wanted because their mom wouldn't let them. You know what I'm saying? Like I've always wanted dreads. I couldn't get them until I was outside of my mother's house, and then I got them. You know what I'm saying? But I've always felt like that. Even me stop eating pork. I've always been a kid that's like kind of bucked back against society. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's from some programming of my cousin pulling me aside, like, yeah, the white man stole your language. You know what I'm saying? Like, and hit understand what I'm talking, where that message came from. You know what I'm saying? Is him saying, sit me down like, yeah, Jesus is black, and you know what I'm saying. So to a 6-year-old, giving him that information of, yeah, the white man's never gonna like you, and all these different things, and you should be learning Swahili. In Africa is really this or that. You know what I'm saying? So me stop eating pork was already already a part of the building block of who I was becoming. You know what I mean? So
But
even if you even
So
before
so
we go
isn't
on,
that
you
growth?
change, right? You
huh?
Yeah, so
change.
isn't that growth or that expression of said feeling growth and
I
change?
already felt it. That's already who I was.
Right, but you
So
you
just
you
so
weren't
just because
bold
now
enough to do it.
that's the thing, right? When you when Leifer said people on the outside notice changes, right? That's and the person's like, I haven't changed. It's because he hasn't changed. He's just only expressing. He probably didn't know how to express or externalize what he truly felt on the inside. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of like people be like, I feel like a dog. And then as they're able to grow, they go through the transformation of looking like a dog and getting these different things tattooed and getting their ears clipped like those weird people because they always felt goofy. You know what I'm saying? And they're just now I have the finances or whatever to make this transition. I'm going to be who I truly want to be. Like it's like gay people's coming out. I've always been gay. I'm this or that. Like you know what I'm saying? That's not a change. That's them finally expressing who they've always felt they were.
But that
So
level of understanding and the boldness of doing it outwardly is a change.
it's not a change. That's who you've been. That's who you've been. But just because you
Not to the
you
world.
it's just like when you not maybe not to the
It's,
world, but to yourself, to the people who truly know you, like to yourself. You're like, I haven't changed. This is who I am. This is who I always
you
been.
said you said yourself
It's
that
a
there was outside stimuli that led you to think a certain way, that led you to not eat pork, that led you to start thinking about life in certain ways. So that outside stimuli created that whatever that fire in you, that wanted that or created that desire for you to want this thing. And then the moment you were able to manifest that thing into reality, you made the transition. That's still change in the making. Although you realized the change first, the change still came outwardly later. So there was still a change in there.
Necessarily.
There was just a time period.
Well, I mean, like I said, as an adolescent, as a 6-year-old, there's not much you could really take into account of. I'm still developing. So I'm not saying like that's the change. You're still developing. Like you're
still changing.
You're still changing.
You're developing.
Use all these synonyms.
You're changing. You're growing. You're learning.
I've heard about 5 different synonyms for change.
Who you are is who you are. So once you understand that, and then you can then outwardly express that. That's 2 different things.
Yo, so you talked about watching Malcolm X, the story of Malcolm X, right?
Hmm?
Do you think Malcolm X changed?
No.
Okay. Gotcha. So at this point,
Detroit
are we just trying to stand on the point? Like who we like?
Listen.
He always was revolutionary.
Don't straw man this conversation.
No, listen. He always was revolutionary. It was in him, but he still had to develop and change into the person he became. Right? I get that part. But he still needed outside sources and experiences.
He was always revolutionary.
He wasn't. He was a criminal. He was a criminal.
He just was rebellious.
He was. Yeah, so he had it in him. It was in him.
He changed it into I guess a more productive.
He redirected it into a positive thing.
He changed. He developed.
But who he was being rebellious, was being outspoken. That's who he was. That was. He
used it.
Used it for you can use it
for wrong.
Evil.
And then when he went to prison, he changed.
That's being who
you are.
Yes,
it is. The decision.
He went to prison and he changed.
The decision to go from bad to good is a change, a momentous change. The decision to be positive rather than be negative is a momentous change.
That's not a change. I can understand where y'all are coming from, but it's I don't feel it's a change because that person is that person, and you're born to do whatever you're born to do. You know what I'm saying? So whether you can use your powers for good or evil.
Don't become what they're born to do. Most people don't become.
But that person, okay, but that person is still that person.
Change. But you
at every level, that person is still that person. No matter if they never become it or whatever, they're still functioning the same way throughout their life.
But they're not. I mean, we just said that Detroit Red putting conch in his head and partaking in white women is a 180 from what he became. And we can't say that's the same person. We can't say that.
Y'all could purposely misunderstand me, but it's cool. Like you're purposely misunderstanding me at this point.
Or you just might be trying to prove a point and you won't come off it.
Yeah, like this don't make sense.
Now you're straw man and hit. Look, you're good at it.
Yeah, this just doesn't make sense though, bro. Like people change. Like, I mean,
hey, we're going to agree to disagree. We'll disagree to disagree.
Look, now he's just being an asshole. Go ahead, King asshole over there. But no, people are the same to me. Like, so however you acted out here throughout your life, you're gonna act. If you're somebody who always looking for the easy way out, you're always going to do that. That's just a part of who you are.
So what about a pimp becoming a preacher? That's not a change.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the same.
That's a bad one. That's a bad analogy.
That's a perfect analogy.
Hold on.
Yeah. That is a perfect. That's the perfect.
Nah, I mean, I agree with that.
That's the Malcolm X thing. It's the same thing. So just because you change how what you're applying it to, you're still that same person.
So Tookie Williams won a Nobel Peace Prize. But before he went, he was a killer, and he went to prison. Was he the same person writing the Nobel Peace Prize that he was?
Yes, because he was influential. Like, I get what he's trying to say, though. What he's trying to say is like those same core characteristics.
But that's what I said. The
that
core
don't change regardless of.
Change.
Yeah,
but
I get what he's trying.
Attributes change. They change.
I get what he's. I get where he's going with it, but
The
It's
core.
just-
But
yeah,
I
it was
said
just
that.
poorly
I
executed,
began
I
my,
guess.
my monologue with that.
How is
The
it poorly
core
executed
of
if you
people.
understand?
Because I mean, like a broke clock is right twice a day. That's why. Like it's just one of those things where, like, yeah, it doesn't correlate that. Like you have to change. Like you're killing people to where you're trying to save people's life. You don't consider that a change?
Because you're only basing it off of the decision that somebody's making. I'm saying, like, you already said it. Leifer already said it. You said you understand, and you reiterated it. So
There's
how
a portion
is it?
of it that's correct.
That's
There's a
correct.
portion of it that
That's correct.
I don't think it's correct, but you know, I just being real. I think at this point we just agree to disagree, and we can move on, man.
You
Because
can't even help yourself, can you?
I,
You're always going to be that guy. Always. You can't even help yourself. That's what I'm saying. Like, you are who you are, player.
you were where you were before you got here.
So yeah. Anything else y'all want to iterate on? I did have some other points, but I kind of lost it in all the color purple and change talk. I ain't gonna lie. How you feel? Everybody good?
I'm good, man.
No, I'm not good.
Hey,
I'm not
hey,
good.
somebody look at the definition of
Oh,
change,
did you just
man.
change, Leifer? You just changed.
Somebody look at the change. Look it up. You looked it up. He's a definition guy. We're a definition guy.
I'm not good at all. Like, no, we're not going to sit here and say that apples and oranges are the same. We're not.
They're the same fruit.
Well,
They don't change.
Since
fruit
we
is
want
the
to
fruit.
talk about definitions, let's go into it. The definition of change. Let's talk about the verb. To make different, to alter or modify. So even if the core view is the same, the modification of your behavior is a change. It's a change. To substitute one thing for another. You substituted bad behavior for good behavior. Change.
Like I said before, the parent that reads the parenting book was going to be a good parent regardless if they read it or not.
Even if there's good information in it, I didn't understand that analogy.
Because it's the person that will
That
even
they're
sit down
willing
and
to change.
the
That they were
person willing to
change?
read the book is the person that's going to be good at it because they're willing to even read the book. A bad person is not going to read the book at all.
Okay, so
let's
look.
say there's two parents. Let's say there's two parents that's willing to read it, but one read a book that really wasn't rooted in anything, and one reads one that's actually proven to work. One's going to be
They
probably
both
better
could be
than the
successful.
other.
They both could be successful.
So are you saying people don't change, just certain people put forth effort to do better?
No, I'm saying the decisions you make are based off your options.
Yo, I think
So if the 20-year-old version and the 40-year-old version of you in your so-called mature ways had the same options, I say that person makes the same decisions.
Yo, you're a systems guy, right? So if you
What'd you say?
get an update, right?
Because if there's outside stimuli, that changes everything. You know, you
I'm-
can have the same options, but the outside stimuli is different. Your environment is different. That changes your mindset and therefore can change your decision-making process. Given the same options.
Given the same options, if from the 20-year-old and the 40-year-old, they have the same options. I said that person will make the same decision.
Jesus Christ.
I disagree. But whatever.
Yo, you're a tech guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get an update, right? Let's just say a new program comes out, right? It's rooted in the same program, right? But on the update, what happens?
I don't know.
It changes, right? You get different changes with the update. It's the same. We get it. It's the same program that it was, but it's been updated. It's changed for whatever reason, right? If it's a new virus, a new something that it needs to connect to, it changed. That's what happens, right?
Speak his language.
I'm speaking his language.
He's not speaking my language, but okay.
right?
You give it a good shot. Give it a shot. I'm gonna try to meet you where you are.
That's all I got, man.
No, like I said, if whoever has if you got the same options, you're gonna make the same decisions. Now, like I think people like say they gain different options over time, and they're like, oh, I changed because I've made different decisions. No, it's because you was able to have a little bit more money. But that if you had this option, then you would have made the better decision.
That's not true. There's always outside stimuli. This whole thing called peer pressure. People make bad decisions all the time based off of their peer group. And they could have had better options, but they decided to do what they knucklehead ass friends just wanted to do.
Hey Mo.
So that person's a follower, and that person will always be a follower.
I only want to keep y'all for an hour.
That note. The keyboard. There you go.
Well, we're gonna go round and round.
He ain't gonna give up the ghost.
On that note, you already know what you're dealing with, man.
I mean, you gotta prove me wrong. You gotta prove me wrong.
Because you don't change. We know, right?
Y'all know I ain't gonna change unless you present me with better information.
Hey man,
that will force me to make a different decision. But that's who I am.
You gotta work hard to do that, though.
All you guys, and that's another prototype dead.
You gotta work real hard to stay there too, man. It's a lot of work to stay there, man. You look how much work you put in 10 minutes of work to stay in the same way of thinking. That's what I was talking about, man. People work that hard, son.
It wasn't a work at all. It is what it is. It's harder to change. That's what, like I said, that's what being a Christian's about.
For regular humans, it wasn't a lot, dog. But for you know what I mean?
Being a Christian is denying yourself daily. You're denying your flesh daily because your flesh wants to do what it wants to do. It wants to sin. It wants to do what the sin it loves doing.
But the flesh
that's what being a Christian is.
But the flesh is you, right?
The flesh is you. Why you?
So you want to do it?
Yes, you want to do it. But when you become a Christian, you have to change and make a better decision based on that. But you don't really want to do it. That's why it's a struggle every day. You don't want to do it.
But you want to do it because you like it.
You want to do it because you like it. Yes.
Yes.
Because that's who you are.
No, that's because you like.
You like it because that's who you are.
Yeah, but it's a struggle with something that you like to do. So you're trying to deny yourself based off of your beliefs, right?
Your beliefs to go to heaven. Now,
right?
Like, hey, well, if I gotta go to heaven, I can't be out here smoking the Chiba or whatever. Yeah. I can't do XYZ no more. You know what I'm saying? And it's a suffering act.
So you change.
You want to do it? No, you
didn't. Change.
No, you didn't change. You're just presented with different information to try to stop doing it, but you want to always do it.
You want to always do it, but before you did do it, you didn't stop. That was the change.
But you still want to do it.
Yeah, but you're not doing it. Even though you want to do it, you're conscious enough to say, "I'm not going to do it."
In the right circumstance, you will do it again.
You may or may not.
If you like strip clubs and chasing women, after a while, like you will have to absolutely avoid it. And then if you put yourself back in the environment, after a while, you're going to start doing exactly what you used to do. In the
maybe not.
No, absolutely you will.
No, you changed.
Because that's what you didn't change.
Your palate changed. It might not be that appealing like it was. You probably get in there and be like, hey, you know what? I don't even know why I'm here. It don't even look the same no more.
Clear of it. You gotta stay even the Bible speaks of that. The Bible says stay away from it because even a little leaven, just a little bit of sin. It's like yeast, boy.
So you changed.
No, you didn't change.
Oh, okay. Hey man, you know what, man? Again, we're gonna have to agree. Disagree.
You don't agree, Smooth? You think people change?
They change, man.
They don't change.
If you live in, you change it, man.
They don't change, man.
Say that again.
You confusing the hell out of me with your theory of how they don't change.
Yo, Hush pool party.
What about it?
At first, it was the best thing smoking. Over time and experiences, it was like, yo, this shit hood. I ain't coming back.
It's been hood. We always felt that way.
Yeah,
Because
no.
after every time we went, we'd be like, all right, I'm good. I don't need to go back. We said that after every time.
We went twice in 1 year because it was that exciting and brought new people. But after your experience elevated and things changed around you, it wasn't what it was because of your experience. It changed the entire scope of the same event that you went to.
Information, but we haven't. But we still attended similar situations. Shoot, what's today's date? You got one coming up, don't you?
It's not the same.
It's the same.
That's not the same type of situation. It's not a hush.
Same situation on steroids.
It's not a hush. That's $500 a ticket. It ain't the same people gonna be there.
It's the same environment. It's the same situation.
But it's not the same. It's not the same level of people.
But it's the same entertainment.
It is, but it's not the same level of people. It changed.
It's the same entertainment.
Hey, Smooth, man. Good seeing you again, my brother. You know what I mean? It's always a pleasure, man. Both of y'all supposed to come to the Christmas party. Y'all just, you know what I'm saying? Yo,
y'all do?
Then my kids, I told you that in the truck, dog. I told you how my kids felt, man. And I tried to make a play for it. They was like, they looked at me like I did something. They looked at me like I was their mom.
Don't do that. Don't do that. We're not in the bashing our past in this situation.
Yeah, I know, sir. But we off air now, so I can say how I feel.
We are not off air.
Oh shit, let me get off air.